Hey there, Cayman Climate Champions. Welcome back to a brand new adventure with me, Bella, your climate ranger. Today we are going to be talking about sea level rise. And as an island nation in the Caribbean, sea level rise is a pretty big deal. So as you can see, we are here today at Hazard Management to talk about that. Hazard Management Cayman Islands is responsible for our disaster response programs. So say we have something like a hurricane or an earthquake, it's their job to make sure we have a safe plan to keep our livelihoods and our ecosystems safe. So let's go and meet Simon.
Hey, Bella.
Hello
Good to
there,
see you,
Simon.
Simon. Come on in. Hazard
Thanks so
Management.
much for having us.
Well, welcome to Hazard Management. Bella, it's good to see you here.
Thank you so much. Well, we today would like to know a little bit about sea level rise and how Hazard Management monitors, looks at projections, looks at basically what could happen to us here as a low-lying island in the Caribbean. So my first question is, we're listed 29th most vulnerable country for sea level rise. What are the current projections for Cayman sea level?
Right, well, in the background you could probably see we do have like sea level monitoring gauges. We have one in the harbour, there's one in Little Cayman, another in Cayman Brac, and another at the Coast Guard base. But looking, a bit further in time, we actually depend on things like the satellite radar altimetry readings from space. There are a number of satellites up there since the 1990s that have been measuring the surface of the sea, and they've been able to confirm that the sea's risen by about, it's been rising, and the rate of rise is actually much deeper than it has been, in the past. So we're seeing an increase in the rise in the sea level. We're actually anticipating about a foot over the next 30 years.
A foot? And
a foot of sea level rise. And so with Cayman being so low-lying, on average just 7 feet above sea level, that could cause some serious issues for us. And so, and especially for the things that we work on, like hurricanes, with storm surge and waves, can have a big effect.
What is being done to monitor sea level rise here in Cayman, and are we already seeing effects?
Right, well, actually just recently we actually installed 2 more storm surge sensors, one which also measures the sea level rises and the tides and things like that. But to get the really high level readings over time, because obviously the wind can blow the sea and it's complicated. So we depend a lot on the satellite radar altimetry readings that have been put in place by people like NASA. 4 satellites are measuring the sea surface every few seconds.
And what is altimetry, sorry?
Altimetry is related to, an altimeter is vertical height above ground. So planes have altimeters in them. So, when we have our LiDAR imagery of Cayman, I'm getting a bit complicated now, but they take pictures of what's happening on the ground in Cayman. We can see it, but it's a bit two-dimensional. So how do you actually bring it, kind of get the vertical measurement?
So it's a way to make it more 3D somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, very interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Are we seeing effects here already?
We are. Obviously, we're seeing issues with beach erosion. We're already seeing some property damage when we see hurricanes passing. Not to say that that's necessarily directly linked to sea level rise, but it certainly can have an impact. And there's some suggestions that show just, a very small rise in the sea can actually have kind of a much more kind of a multiplier effect in terms of impacts from waves and even storm surge.
And what about our ground level water as it is?
Right, in many areas you can just dig a few inches below the ground and you've got the water table. So without rivers or much soil in many areas, quite impermeable cap rock in some places or tarmac, you notice that the water doesn't go anywhere. And we're depending then on evaporation to get the water to go away. And that's got to exceed the rate of precipitation, the rain. But yeah, we've got growing issues with flooding, and we're seeing it even on the high tides, these what they call perigean tides, the kind of king tides. In some places the roads are being covered by the water, the sea, and even parcels of land. So we expect that to, as I said, get worse over time, so we have to plan for that.
Okay, well, let's go on to the incident command room to talk a bit more about that.
Sounds like a plan.
So you mentioned that planning is involved with this, and obviously we have to plan for our most vulnerable areas. So what are the areas that you think will have the biggest threat and impacts of sea level rise?
Well, we're already seeing, obviously, the coastal areas getting impacted, especially our beaches. But one of the mandates of hazard management is to do risk analysis. We recently did the tsunami model with NOAA. It's got to be credible as well. We want to have good evidence. But NOAA's also doing the wave impact models and the storm surge model. So the supercomputers are running every conceivable possible hurricane, different angles of approach, different size of the wind field, different velocity of the wind, over 100,000. So they're operating 24/7, and probably in about a year's time, we can have a really good model of storm surge, which could come up. We had 8 to 12 feet in Hurricane Ivan. It could come up even higher with sea level rising, and the wave, the effects of the waves, which can be incredibly powerful in a storm. So understanding the risk then helps us prepare for the likely impacts, and even look at the way we're going to have to respond and recover from things.
So what is being done right now to protect these areas that might already be feeling these effects?
Well, we look at things like certain critical infrastructure, and again, we're really trying to get the risk analysis to try to make informed decisions.
Right.
So while we are involved in things like environmental impact assessments a little bit with our partner, Department of Environment, we're also ensuring our shelters are safe, because we need refuges for people to go when we're threatened by things like hurricanes and so on. So, we're expecting, though, to have this data, as I said, in about a year, and then we'll be passing that on to planning and development, the development plan and things like that, and working with our Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency to try to sort of adapt and evolve to the changing threats that we're facing here in Cayman, to make sure people are safe and that we continue to thrive and that our economy stays robust and our tourism product is still good. So
as they are all interlinked.
we are depending basically on scientific evidence to do the risk analysis, but eventually we're hoping to pass this information on to planning and development. We're in the process of updating the development plan. The government is working with our partners and the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. We'll be trying to push for this risk analysis of wave, sea level rise, storm surge impacts to be kind of accounted for in the way we build going forward into the future, to make sure particularly our critical infrastructure is safe and resilient and robust. Things like our shelters, but also, our utilities. That's part of the National Emergency Operations Center mechanism. We have the utilities embedded in there, making sure that, things that we depend on, like our internet, our electric, our water, that all these things appropriately factor in the risks we're facing.
So you're planning for the future, understanding that climate change will be a part of it.
Yes, we accept, and we accept fully that sea level rise is an issue, that climate change is occurring. We're seeing, the patterns are showing less rain, more intense tropical cyclones forming, not necessarily more in number, but more intense. We're having to adapt to that, and we're constantly striving to do that.
Wonderful. Well, I have one more question for you, but let's go to yet another room just to investigate everything.
Okay.
And let's do that
Where
there.
are we going to go?
To your screen room.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go. So where are we now, Simon?
So this is actually the backup 911 call center, where, if we lose our 911, it's also the NEOC, the National Emergency Operations Center, where the calls come in during an activation and a crisis.
Wow, very interesting. So I guess my question here for you is, what do you hope to see for the future of Cayman? Hopefully this room won't be used a lot. So what do you hope to see for the future of Cayman?
Well, obviously I want us to continue to thrive, be a robust, strong, wonderful place to live, where we take care of our most vulnerable, but people have opportunities growing up and they can get meaningful jobs and livelihoods and raise families. But also obviously that it's a safe place to live, and that our most vulnerable, as I said, are taken care of. That people's properties and lives can be safe from particularly hazards. You know, we don't want people to get their properties damaged by waves and storm surge in particular, and sea level rise having such a big impact on that. So what we'd like to see is that a better understanding of the risks, and those being reflected in the way that we build and develop to ensure that you know that we stay strong and continue to thrive.
What more could you ask for?
I know.
Oh, well, thank you for having us today,
Oh, I
Simon.
appreciate it.
It was
Take care.
wonderful to meet you.
And you too.
And thanks for keeping on doing all the good work you do for us.
Appreciate that. Take care, Vanna.
Remember that you are empowered and capable of making meaningful changes every day that will help the future of our islands. Now go get out there and explore our home, and I'll see you later, Climate Rangers. Bye.